South Florida. So with that, I'll kick it over to Coach.
Well, I don't know, again, if there's a whole lot to say. Another incredibly disappointing game, a game that did not reflect our week of preparation against a very good opponent, but that doesn't matter. Like, we did not play good football in any of the three phases, and I'm disappointed. I feel like I've let down a lot of people, and it's my job to get us playing better football, and I have not done that to my expectation. And my mindset is to change some ways I do things to hopefully get a better response from our building.
Kind of on that note is when you talk about needing to change some ways you do things. How difficult is that when you've been doing things one way? You know, I mean, is it difficult? Is change difficult?
Change is always difficult, but I'm open. This is a term that I think is a little esoteric and people cringe at to some point. And I agree, but it's true. Like, I have a growth mindset. I did not come in here thinking that I had all the answers. I think I've learned from really good people. I've tried to be a good listener, learner. I applied some things that others had told me were the right things to apply. They've proven not to be the best way of doing things, and that's my fault. And then I have some core beliefs that I think need to adjust, not change, but adjust. And I think we're also all learning the modern day dynamics of college football and what motivates a player and a coach. And I think you can't be an old curmudgeon and say, well, this is the way it should be, so everybody needs to do it this way. I think you have to be, well, here's the reality, and here's how you try to get the most out of your people.
Coach, when you say change, there's a lot of different things that you can change, small things that we won't see or the fans won't see. What's the biggest change that you're doing starting this week?
I think some of that stuff is internal, and people wouldn't understand even if I tried to explain it, just because it's affecting so many things. It's not as easy as saying, oh, we're going to go from morning to afternoon, or hold them more accountable. I mean, we always hold them accountable. It's one of the foundational principles. I think the biggest disconnect that I have seen is I've never been around in my history in football something that is so different from the practice field to the game. As I said last week, I've been part of bad teams, and you're bad, and you practice bad, and you go play bad. You've seen that, been a part of it. I've been part of teams where you just know you're better, and you practice at a really high level, and you go out and you play just like you practiced. This is the first place I've been around where we practice at a very high level and then don't come close to playing anywhere near that. So I'm asking myself, are we practicing the right way? So it's things like that, like, are drills transferable? Are practice sessions transferable? Is the messaging transferable? Obviously, no, right? Because we're not getting the results that we want, and we're not putting our players in a position to where they can do what they do in practice on the field on Saturday. So I think that's the easiest way to explain it, is taking the time you're with the players, the 4 hours a day you're with the players, and saying, okay, how do you reshape that so it's more transferable to the game? So when they get to the game, it almost feels easier than practice, because something's happening where it's harder. Like, basic things that we do not see happen in practice are happening in games. I don't blame the player a lot of times, because as I told them, as I've told people before, I've never met a player that wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, today I'm purposely not going to do that, what I was taught to do. I'm going to run. Today I'm going to choose to miss a tackle. Today I'm going to choose to miss a blocking assignment. Today I'm going to choose to drop a football. Today I'm going to choose to make the wrong read. Like, I don't believe players do that. So if they're making those mistakes, but they're not making them in practice, then it's my job to make sure we change how we practice. Or it's not even just practice, prepare. Because it's, it's 4 hours of preparation a day. It's, it's 2 hours out there. Does that make sense? Like, I'm trying not to get too out in the clouds, but that's probably the easiest way of saying it. Yeah.
Going along with that, have you had those conversations with your coordinators too, to maybe if you're changing, are they going to do the same thing and follow suit?
Yeah, and I think, this coach dynamic's interesting in college football. You hire people that you believe have the same values as you, and I believe both my coordinators do, and they're both problem solvers. It's one of the things that I look for. And they have actively worked on problem solving. They're frustrated too because they feel as if they keep trying to address the problems, trying to make the corrections, doing what they've have in their tool belt to fix what is plaguing us. I think they're like I am, like, okay, well, then help me grow and find better ways to do it, because obviously our ways are not working. So I think we're all in this kind of growth mindset of we're willing to change any way we need to change to help our players be more successful on Saturday. And that's really what this comes down to is taking all agendas aside, like our job, as I've defined it in this building, is to help them reach their potential on and off the football field. We're seeing growth off the field, but we're not seeing that growth on the field. So therefore, we need to change our ways of how to try to pull that out of them on game day, so they, as Coach Saban said, I think he said it brilliantly, it was create value for themselves. That they have to understand that we want them to create value for themselves. Not just this NIL value, but value as players, like value as people, value as learning lessons that will help carry them into their future lives, whether that be football or something else. So it's on us to make sure we're doing the right things to get them to play their best.
Coach, you mentioned talking to some of the past people from your football life about practice, and they say, everything looks solid and that sort of thing. When you talk about making those changes, even though you like how you practice, to try to pull more out of them during the game, do they have any ideas on that? Have you kind of heard what, maybe you would go to?
Yeah, I'm wrestling with a couple things. The healthier team is always something you got to be concerned with too. Some of this is, how physical can you be in the middle of the season? Let's take tackling. You can't tackle in practice. Like you can't expose your running backs, your wide receivers to full tackling during the week. So what kind of drills do you use to learn better tackling? What, as we call it, thud. Are you familiar with thud? So thud is we're going to come up and we're going to be in a great form to tackle, but we're not going to tackle you. We're going to thud off. Well, how do you thud better? I think one thing with tackling is that I've never seen a bad athlete that was a good tackler. A lot of tackling is an athletic index. So how do we help them get more flexible? How do we help them get stronger? How do we increase their athleticism in season? Lau does an incredible job. And one thing we did last year, and it's showing up this year too, is we actually get faster as the season goes on. We're one of the few teams that the GPS numbers get better during the season. So we're doing that from a speed aspect, but it's not translating into some of the things that speed and athleticism should be able to produce. So that's, obviously we're racking our brains on that. I'm looking through data. I'm talking to coach. I'm literally trying to turn over every stone there is to try to fix this. But in terms of a practice profile, there's only so many things you can do without exposing your players to injuries that you wouldn't want to have happen during the week.
How much in games sometimes it seems like something bad happens early, whether it be a drop pass, a key penalty, missed tackle, whatever it may be, and it sort of sets a tone type of thing. Is that accurate, and how do you quit that from happening?
Steve, it's incredibly accurate. It's the thing that hurts my soul as much as anything is, one of our core values is life-bringing energy. And I think that has been lost. And that's my fault. Anytime your core values, they're not signs, they're not T-shirts, they're not things that you say in press conferences, although many times that's what a lot of coaches do. They should be your fabric. You should be weaved with the core values of your program. And we've done a pretty good job on a couple of them, but I think that is one we have absolutely whiffed on. The final E in our rare squared is life-bringing energy. Like, regardless of circumstance, regardless of situation, you need to bring life to others. And we literally suck the life out of others. Body language is terrible. Audio is terrible. Just everything that you're looking for that good football teams have, something bad happens to us. And so you get kicked in the groin 30 times. And I'm searching for how to change that. It's not who I am. If I am passionate to a fault sometimes, but I find myself on the sideline. It's interesting. I'll give you an interesting example. When we get on the plane, we have the iPads, and it gives you 4 views of a play. It gives you the wide, it gives you the tight, it gives you a hybrid, and then it gives you the TV copy. So I'm sitting there on the plane, and I'm watching. Okay, here's this. I'm grading the film, offense, defense, and then about 6 times during the game, the TV showed me. Now I can't hear what they're talking about. Okay, it's no audio on the iPad, so they just show me randomly. That's the TV copy. The cameras did hey, let's do a jib shot on Dilfer, and I watched myself. I'm like, that's not me. Like that. I'm sitting there and look academic. Trust me, I'm not real academic. Like, where's my passion? Where's my enthusiasm? Where's my fight? Now, internally, I'm doing that. And there's times that I'm trying to do that. But I own the fact that I haven't been the best version of me on the sideline from an energy standpoint either. So, that's just another self-growth that I need to look at and say, well, maybe they're feeding off my lack of passion, my lack of intensity. Now, I just don't want to be the guy that runs around and jumps up and down and high fives just so the camera sees him do it. That's not the intent. But if they need more of that from me, then I need to be that for them. So another thing I'm looking at to try to hopefully inspire our group to have more passion on the sidelines, because that's really what it is. Like, I feel it, I see it, and you can't, it's football has so many ebb and flows. When you're good, when you're bad, you're indifferent, right? The game is just a roller coaster, and you can't let that suck the life. Your energy has to be independent of circumstance if you ever think you're going to turn the corner. And I think that's a message that our players not just need to hear, because words are cheap, they need to see, and maybe they need to see it more from me.
Is that, just real quick, is that sideline domain or something that you just kind of noticed recently, or you know what I'm saying?
It's the first time I saw it. I didn't, other games that I watched, maybe I didn't notice it on the TV copy. I don't watch the games on TV. I just see these copies, these clips. This is the first time it jumped out at me, was 1, you've gained weight, and 2, where's your passion?